WKGC, Panama City.
Welcome back, Voyagers. Taste and Tale. This is Doing Dinner on 90.7 WKGC, Public Radio NPR, Panama City, at the beautiful studios in Gulf Coast State College. And we're talking today about Jules Verne. Jules Verne. We're doing a Jules Verne-inspired dinner party menu. But first, like we normally do on the first segment of the show, we're going to talk about some of his life and how he became to do what he did before we paint pictures of menus and decor and wrapping it up. Well, Jules Verne was born in Nantes, France in 1828. And it's a very bustling port city where there's lots of salt and ships that are leaving for far-off lands at this time. So we're still in the late exploration stage of humanity. The whole world quite hadn't been mapped yet. But this seaport shaped him profoundly. And from an early age, Jules watched these tall ships come and go, wondering where they sailed and what secrets the oceans held. That fascination with exploration stayed with him for life, and he became the father of science fiction. Originally, though, he wasn't destined for literary greatness. His father, Pierre, a very respected lawyer, sent Jules to Paris to study law. He enrolled, but secretly he was writing plays and poems and sneaking off to the theater and frequenting the libraries of the Society of Geography in France, which happens to be the oldest geographical society in the world. And it was there, among maps and journals and scientific papers, that Verne found his calling. He devoured stories of real explorers like Darwin and Humboldt and Magellan. And he began imagining a new kind of storytelling, fiction, that didn't defy science, but danced with it. So, Verne was no mere fantasist. Of course, he did write fantasy-based stuff, but while others invented magic, Verne actually explored the possible. So think, he invented the submarine without inventing the submarine. He based his work on cutting-edge science of his time, so things based in geology and astronomy and engineering and chemistry. And then he kind of projected where it would go forward. In many ways, he wasn't just writing about inventions, he was basically predicting them. Electric submarines, space travel, our favorite here in the Florida summers, air conditioning. Yeah. Deep sea exploration, even video conference calling. And this is in, the mid-1850s that he was doing this. So, all dreamed up decades, sometimes over 100 years before the actual writing became reality. And it's no wonder he's called the father of modern science fiction. Later, a title he shared with H.G. Wells. His first major success, though, came in 1863 with a story called 5 Weeks in a Balloon. And it's a story of African exploration by hydrogen balloon filled with weather science, geography, and suspense. But it was just the beginning for Verne. He went on to write more than 60 novels in his Voyage Extraordinaire series, designed to outline all geographical, geological, physical, and astronomical knowledge amassed by modern science. But he didn't just dump facts. He wove them into these epic tales of suspense, survival, and humanity's relentless curiosity, which is why he's my favorite author. Take 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, for example. Published in 1870. At its center, the mysterious Captain Nemo and his marvel of engineering, the Nautilus. Verne described electric propulsion before it was ever built, and underwater forests and giant squids and lost cities, and even coral reefs long before anyone ever dove them. So, or take Journey to the Center of the Earth, 1864. Most of his books have been made into movies as well, which is a really cool thing, where Professor Lidenbrock and his nephew Axel descend into a dormant volcano in Iceland, and along the way they pass through his prehistoric worlds, luminous crystals, underground oceans, all imagined using what geologists of the time knew and then pushed into the imaginative unknown, which is interesting and why he is so influential in today's writings. And then came my favorite, Around the World in 80 Days in 1873. Maybe his most beloved tale and my favorite novel of all time. It's a race against the clock, but it's really about culture, confidence, and global wonder. British gentleman Phileas Fogg and his French valet board trains and steamships and ride elephants, wind-powered sledges, hot air balloons, touching down in Egypt, India, Hong Kong, Japan, San Francisco, and beyond. The book sparked real-life travel challenges. Reporters and explorers tried to beat Fogg's record. Even Nellie Bly, a famous actual real explorer and journalist, did his actual trip in 72 days, and it was inspired entirely by Verne's fiction. She even got to meet him on her journey, which was pretty cool. So, then, let's talk space. Yes, space. From the Earth to the Moon in 1865. Verne envisions a moon launch from Florida. Cape Canaveral didn't exist, of course, but NASA was still 100 years away, yet he imagined a cannon-powered capsule launched from America's southern coast. He even speculated on weightlessness and orbital trajectories, all long before anyone broke even the atmosphere. His works influenced NASA engineers, Elon Musk, Werner von Braun, SpaceX rockets. All of these things were thought up much longer before they were actually built. And he had a lot of personal taste and influence that influenced his writing. He had passions. He really liked music, and you can see that in his novels. He played the piano and composed pieces in his youth. He loved boating and often sailed along the French coast. He even bought a small yacht called the St. Michel and used it to explore the Atlantic Ocean. Those sea journeys fueled his marine novels. Though his success grew, Verne's later life was marked by introspection. After surviving an assassination attempt by his own family, yes, that actually did happen, he grew more philosophical and dark in his writing. Books like The Lighthouse at the End of the World and The Village in the Treetops show a writer wrestling with nature, humanity, and the fragility of civilization. So, Jules Verne died in 1905 in Ames, France, where he is buried. And his burial place is perhaps the most haunting tribute to his legacy. It shows an actual statue of himself cast in stone, literally breaking through the earth, hands stretched outwards toward the sky, which is pretty cool. I'd like to see that one day. It's a powerful symbol of who he was. Definitely a dreamer reaching beyond the known. His stories weren't just adventures, they were blueprints for the future, which makes it fun. And he tells these with a lot of heart, humor, and hope for humanity. The reason I wanted to talk about Verne today, and why I want to do a dinner menu based on that, is because one of these days I'm going to get around to doing an actual dinner menu on Around the World in 80 Days. I do have it planned, just don't have anywhere to do it quite yet, and we're working on that. Maybe with Redfish Film Fest, but we'll see. Anyway, a resurgence in dinner parties has happened. Recently in Food and Wine magazine, there was the resurgence at dinner parties, which had chefs and Martha Stewart talking about why people are doing them more. And another thing that's happening is more book clubs are popping up. So lots of people are reading books and then getting together and talking about them, which I find interesting. And I think some of these older novels, especially ones that pique our imagination and make us think, are great for these types of situations where you can do like a book club and dinner party. Why sit around and just talk and not have something to eat or drink? And with the menu today, it's going to be pretty inventive. Just like Verne himself, I want to do probably 5 courses, and I want them to like travel through his life and his stories, and then kind of bring them to the plate. So I'm thinking 5 menus based on 5 different books, and each dish paired with a passage in a place of that book, which is kind of fun. And I have some pretty good ideas that we're going to talk about after the break. Then when we get into segment 3, I think we're going to start talking decor and music and entertainment. And I think I have some really cool ideas for what you would send to your guests to invite them to a party like this. So probably 10 to 15, maybe 20 people around one table. That's the idea, so everyone can talk. And with lots of cool props and ideas on the table that can make it very interesting and fun. And then we're going to wrap the show up on the last segment and talk about some of the things that make sense. And each course will be reviewed and talked about, and we'll ask for callers. If you've ever read any of Jules Verne's books, could you give us a call? And the number is going to be 850-772-6803. That's 850-772-6803. All right, so
we're rolling out. Going in break.
When you join the U.S. Air Force, you get more than a paycheck. You get the chance to experience different cultures while traveling all over the world, full health and dental insurance, and all the educational and training opportunities you need to advance your skills, all while serving your country. Contact me, Staff Sergeant Rosemary McGill, at 334-451-4217 to learn more information.
Local radio brings people together like never before.
It's a beautiful hometown weekend out there. We've got
your local stations keep you informed and involved with music, talk shows, and real-time news updates you can trust. We are live and local. We are America's broadcasters, connecting you to what matters most. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress to support your local radio stations.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Welcome back to Doing Dinner. I'm your host, Chef Chris, and today we are planning a Jules Verne-inspired menu. And if you don't know who Jules Verne is, he is an author from the 1800s who is widely considered to be the father of modern science fiction. And now that we've traveled through his life in the first segment and some of his stories, let's bring them to the plate. And I've crafted a 5-course menu based on Verne's books, each dish paired with a passage and a place. So let's buckle up. This one's going to be fun, and we're going to do some really, really cool food with this one. I think 5 courses is perfect for a dinner party. It's easily manageable, especially if it's less than 10 people. And it can be a lot of fun because it allows you to do more unique, fun things and research into what you want to put on the table. So, course 1 is going to be inspired by Around the World in 80 Days, which is my favorite novel. It's about Phileas Fogg, and he travels all around the world in 80 days using many different modes of transportation through many different challenges. One picture is him floating in a hot air balloon over the Alps in France, drinking champagne, which sounds very, very lovely. So I think you absolutely have to pair this first dish with champagne, and it's going to be, I would say billicart, which I love, and probably billicart rosé. And I want to do these smoked duck tartlets, and I want to smoke the duck with black tea. And then I want to use some fig jam on there and some candied pecans. Because in London, Phileas lives with precision and order, and he lives every day pretty much exactly the same. And his assistant brings a lot of warmth and French flair. So he took great pride in preparing his master's tea precisely at 8:23 a.m. every day. And I think that duck and figs symbolize balance of adventure and tradition. I think it's going to be a really cool dish, and I would take some black tea, and there's these really cool things that you can get now that are called stovetop smokers. So if you don't have the ability to smoke outside, they're called stovetop smokers. You can find them online. And they're really, really unique, cool things that if you don't like to do a whole lot of smoking, you can still smoke inside your home, which sounds kind of crazy, but it is absolutely possible, and they are cool little machines. So they're called little indoor kettle smokers, or original stovetop smokers. Give them a Google. They're out there, and it allows you to smoke inside, which is cool. So we're going to smoke this duck with tea leaves, and like really nice and slow, and then we'll braise it off, pull it, and kind of do like this like deep dark fig demi-glaze, and then we'll take fig jam, put it on top of that with some candied pecans inside of a nice little tart shell. It's going to be delicious. Maybe put some nice, one of my favorite herbs is called chervil, and chervil is something that I use on a lot of dishes, and maybe use some chervil to garnish that. And course 2. So course 2 is, and I would like to say that we are deviating a little bit from my traditional way of cooking, which is mostly local to my area. This is going to be a very global menu, and I think that makes it fun too, and challenging for me, which I like to do. Course 2 is going to be Descent to Iceland, inspired by the journey to the center of the earth. And it's going to be Arctic char. And Arctic char is a fish found in northern Atlantic Ocean. It's delicious. Arctic, subarctic coastal waters around the globe. And it's very, very white, or it's very, very like salmon-looking meat. And I want to take that, cut it up, and make a crudo with it. And crudo is basically cured fish with some type of acid and olive oil. And then we're going to pickle some shallots, and we're going to put that on there. We'll plate it very, very nicely. It's going to have this really vibrant color. I want to do like a lemon granita on top of it. And then I want to take some dill. And recently I've been making a lot of oils. What you can do is you can take herbs or spices, and you can steep them into oils, or use a blender, or a RoboCoupe is what we would call it in the business, food processor, and make an oil as long as you fine strain it. It looks really, really pretty. So you'll have like this orange and purple and yellow and green, and it's going to be very, very bright and vibrant. But it is a tribute to the Icelandic launch point in the book, Journey to the Center of the Earth. And I think crudo evokes like freshness and sharpness, and it makes sense to do a fish from the Arctic whenever you're talking about Iceland. So, and there is an excerpt from the book that kind of gave me the inspiration for this dish, and it's the landscape stretched before us, untouched by time, cold as the secrets it's held. So, cold dish for Iceland, definitely when we start out with a hot dish on Around the World in 80 Days. Now, course 3, inspired by 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is an amazing book, and also an amazing movie, inspired, even there's a TV show, I believe, on Amazon Prime now, about 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But it's called Nautilus. Nautilus was the name of the submarine. And I want to make a dish, a classic French dish called bouillabaisse. And bouillabaisse is basically shellfish and saffron stew. It has generally bread with it, very rustic bread, and a condiment from France called rouille. But I want to do like some local fish on this one, maybe some grouper, some American red snapper. Definitely if you can get your hands on some scallops, clams, mussels would be good. Shrimp would be excellent as well. And you kind of stew it all together with saffron and seafood broth, and it's very delicious. It does have some vegetables in it. I would probably just shop for any local vegetables that you can find, anything vibrant and good and in season. When you're shopping for vegetables, kind of give them a touch, smell, make sure they're ripe, and they're in season because they're always going to be better that way. Broccoli isn't really that great in the summer. But, hey, in the wintertime, it's beautiful depending on where you live. And I believe that bouillabaisse would be like a deep sea feast that Captain Nemo probably would have served on the Nautilus during his adventures, because it would be even cooler if you could get like some squid, or you could get some squid, the tentacles of squid, because there's giant squid in the book, and that would make a lot of sense. And I think like the saffron steam smell is really, really good, especially with seafood. That's what makes things like paella really delicious too. But the excerpt that made me think about this dish from the book is, everything we ate came from the sea. The ocean was our pantry. And here where we live in northern Florida, the ocean truly is our pantry. A lot of the seafood that we get comes out of the Gulf of Mexico, and we're lucky enough to have that. So that is our resource here. So I want to do as much local as I can in there. Probably some clams from Cedar Key. If it's the right time of year, local squid, shrimp, grouper, snapper. It would be delicious. Now, course 4, Colonial Crossing is what I'm calling this one. Also based around the world in 80 days, because it's my favorite book. It gets 2 dishes. But they travel through certain places in the book, Egypt, India, and I'm kind of doing a mashup with this. So I want to do like Moroccan spiced lamb, and this is the main. This is like the entree. Moroccan spiced lamb over couscous with roasted carrots and dates. Now, dates tend to get a bad rap. A lot of people don't realize this, but they are the fruit of palm trees. They get a bad rap, but they're delicious. They're sweet. They have a lot of like umami-ness in them, almost like sweet umami-ness. It's really beautiful if you stuff it with chorizo and wrap it in bacon. Devils on horsebacks, or what those are called, I believe. But they're amazing too. It's a great little thing to use whenever you're cooking with things that could be hot. So this Moroccan spice lamb, we're going to have a ton of different spices in it. We'll probably build our own Moroccan spice because they're just not widely available. Maybe in an international market, or if you live in a bigger city, it'd probably be easier to find. But generally, it's going to have things like cumin and paprika, things that you should already have in your pantry staples: cumin, paprika, ginger, cinnamon, turmeric, more saffron, coriander seed, which I really, really love. Coriander is very underrated. It's like this very beautiful earthy citrus flavor that I tend to use in a lot of things. But, Moroccan has a 7-spice too. My favorite spice from Morocco is called sharmoula, and it's like this marinade often used for fish, but it's a blend of herbs and spices like cumin, paprika, garlic. So they blend a lot of things together there. So this is going to be a very, very strong dish. Interesting, exotic is probably the word I would use for it. But it also is going to bring comfort. And let's talk about couscous for a moment. Couscous is a small granular pasta traditionally made from semolina, like durum wheat, like North pasta, but it is a staple in North Africa and Middle Eastern countries, and it is often served as a side dish or base for an entree. But it's got this like light, fluffy texture. It has amazing ability to absorb flavors, and it makes it very, very versatile. And it's cooked pretty quickly. Our most common in the U.S. is like quick cooking couscous, but traditionally couscous is steamed in like this special pot with a steamer. And Israeli couscous or pearl couscous is a little bit larger and chewier, prepared more like boiling in water. I know all of us don't have a special pot to cook couscous in, but I believe it is a very underrated ingredient, and I think it's beautiful with lamb, especially since we're talking North African here, Moroccan, roasted carrots. So carrots are really, really good glazed. And in culinary school, that's how we teach them to first cook them, is blanch them, sear them off, cook them with honey. So we're going to take some carrots, and I want to cut these carrots pretty thin, almost matchstick size. And then I want to toss them with some honey and those dates. And we'll have this nice pool of beautiful couscous, salt in the water, with this Moroccan spice lamb rack over the top. So you would take the whole lamb rack, you cook it in the oven or on a grill, and you cook it whole. Lamb lollipops are the individual sections of a rack, and if you cook the rack whole, then you can cook it a beautiful medium rare and have this like nice, maybe 2 or 3 of them on the plate, and the couscous, the lamb, and then on top of that, these like matchstick roasted carrots that almost like could be formed into a haystack. And I think that this dish would be amazing garnished with basil. So if you have some basil leaves, or you're growing basil, or you have some like micro basil, I think it would be beautiful here and really, really delicious. So yeah, that's Moroccan spice lamb with couscous, roasted carrots, and dates, based on Around the World in 80 Days when they travel through North Africa. So now let's talk course 5. Now I wanted to do a really cool dessert, because a lot of times on the show, we kind of forget about dessert, and I think that every great meal has to end with dessert. But I like the idea of doing creme brulee here. We've been doing a lot of panna cottas recently, but I like creme brulee for this one. And I want to do absinthe creme brulee, which is not typically a thing that you would do. And absinthe is a alcohol. It is a high-proof spirit, but when you cook it, the alcohol cooks out, but it has a very distinctive herbal flavor, also often associated with, like, anise. I personally really love anise. I like licorice, and I like fennel, and I like those types of flavors, but it's traditionally, like, prepared or poured very, very cold, with very, very cold water in a sugar cube. So I'm thinking, well, I mean, if you put sugar in it, and let's make a creme brulee. So, and it gets kind of milky white when diluted with water. In this sense, we're going to make a creme brulee. So we're going to use cream and eggs, and we're going to take that absinthe with some sugar, and we're going to cook out the alcohol. And then we're going to pour in our cream and mix in some egg yolks. And if you don't have creme brulee dishes at home, you should get some. They're fairly inexpensive, and creme brulee, I think, is a really fun dessert to be able to prepare, especially because you get to play with a lot of fire. And I want to put so absinthe creme brulee with a bunch of sugar caramelized on top, and you can do like a couple layers of sugar, nice thick sugar crust on top of this creme brulee. Maybe like some beautiful whipped cream, and then take some pistachios that we've made into like a crumble in the oven. So you could take pistachios and a little bit of flour and a little bit of sugar, toss it together, roast it off in the oven, and crush it up to be like this really fun like confection type nut. And I think it creates a dreamy dessert with like shimmer. I'm very, very whimsical, very French, because from the earth to the moon. And I think when Verne was talking about this book, which is so much fun, I'm like, and it kind of hit home, because there's an excerpt in the book that says, "And what would the moon taste like?" he wondered. "Something bright and bitter, sweet and unknown." And I don't think that's any better represented than absinthe creme brulee with pistachio crumb. That's probably what the moon tastes like. Maybe it tastes like marshmallows. I don't know. But either way, I think it would be a lot of fun to do that. And that's our menu for today. Each course is a page from Verne's imagination, transformed into flavor. It's a culinary map through time, place, and fantasy, you know? And now that we've built the menu, let's dress the part and set the scene. After this break, we'll bring the party back to life. This is 90.7 WKGC.
people are who build community. The self-starters, the friendly neighbors, the ambitious workers. And that's exactly who our members are. We're PCU. And with us, banking is made better. So whether you need a rewards checking account, financial products that assist with travel, easy business loans, or affordable auto loans, come see us so we can build the community together. Panhandle Credit Union. Banking made better. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender.
New tariffs, new trade agreements, same old interest rates. We'll talk about the rest of the week's economic news as well next time on Marketplace.
Weekdays at 5 p.m. on WKGC.
Next time on Real Talk, we are taking a break from new releases to count down our top 10 films of 1985 to 1989. What are some of your favorites? Join the discussion Monday at 1 Eastern, 12 Central on 90.7 WKGC.
And welcome back to 90.7 WKGC. I'm Chef Chris, your host of Doing Dinner, and today we're planning a whimsical, amazing, around-the-world dinner based on Jules Verne's novels. And we've stepped into his life and how he became who he was, some of the books he's wrote, and then we just did a beautiful 5-course menu with some amazing things inspired by his books, like smoked duck tartlets with fig jam and candied pecans, inspired by Around the World in 80 Days, and then Arctic char crudo with pickled shallot, lemon ice, and dill oil, inspired by Journey to the Center of the Earth, and then Nautilus bouillabaisse, inspired by 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And then, because it is my favorite novel, Around the World in 80 Days gets 2. Moroccan spiced lamb rack over couscous with roasted carrots and dates. And then, of course, the most interesting, based off the book From the Earth to the Moon, absinthe creme brulee with pistachio crumb and whipped cream, which is what I think that the moon would probably taste like. It's a very dreamy dessert. But either way, this is segment 3 where we talk atmosphere, games, and entertainment. Let's imagine the room. You walk in and find yourself in what I think should look like a Victorian salon with lots of like brass fixtures, maps pinned to the wall, and globes tucked into the corners. This isn't just a party. It's kind of like a portal into the past. So let's talk about decor and some of the things that we should use on that. I think, one, lots of velvet drapes, brass fixtures, and maps on the wall. And here's why. Because in Around That World in 80 Days, Phileas Fogg's journey begins in the gentlemanly confines of a place called the Reform Club in London. And it's got like these high-back chairs and maps and decorums, and it sets the tone for the whole adventure. And he describes these things very well. It's a mix of like elegance and calculated curiosity. And Verne's characters often begin in like these comfortable but stifling interiors, so only to throw themselves into the unknown. So I think our decor needs to honor the moment of departure, which I think that is comfort meets chaos, is what I'm calling that one. So lots of velvet drapes, brass fixtures, and maps on the wall. And then I think that, inspired by 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, you got to have some like ship wheels, globes, or like vintage trunks. Because people used to not travel with suitcases. They traveled with trunks. And but the submarine, the Nautilus in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, becomes an entire world. It's like a science lab and museum and part shipwreck wonder. But I think having ship wheels would be kind of cool if you could find some, probably at local antique stores. I'm sure they have replicas online as well. And globes are just a nod to the obsessive charting of distant oceans and our fascination with traveling the Earth. And trunks represent the literal baggage of Victorian travel.
My whole house.
Yeah.
That's my house.
The trunk, you know?
Trunks and wheels.
Yeah, trunks and wheels. But every prop, I think, needs to remind us of a character. And it's like the globe represents Captain Nemo's dream of like domination over the seas. And this one's my favorite. I want to find some hot air balloon lanterns, because there is a lot of hot air balloon references in his books. There's some in Around the World in 80 Days, and let's be honest, 5 Weeks in a Balloon is the first novel he wrote. So it's a distinct visual reference to 5 Weeks in a Balloon. But that book is about 3 explorers traveling across uncharted Africa by balloons, which I think sounds like a lot of fun. An African safari in a hot air balloon sounds like my type of African safari. You don't have to be down on the ground with the animals, but you can still see them from above, you know. But it is whimsical, it's thrilling, it's widely imaginative for the 1860s. But these lanterns like need to be everywhere, and they need to like serve as symbols of like adventure and dreams and flight. Because I mean, Verne launched readers into the skies long before the Wright brothers did, but they just happen to be in a basket in a balloon. But, you know, these lanterns could be really cool. I did look online. You can find hot air balloon lanterns, and I think that they are really, really cool. They're very affordable as well. And you can even get, like, the white sky lanterns that you light and let go, which I think would be a fun activity to do. I don't think very many people have gotten to do that, so I would like to do it at least once, and that's why I think that decor is very important for that. And, yeah. Hot air balloon lanterns. I've never got to do them. You should do them. The centerpieces. I think having a lot of centerpieces that are antique books and then like brass holded candles, which are easy to find and very affordable now. You can find them at most antique stores. You can even find some candle holders that are made to look old I think you can even find them at like Dollar Tree now. They're just everywhere because people like that old look. But there wasn't a lot of electricity in the 1860s, so I think having this party lit by candlelight is a really cool thing to do, and lanterns. But books are basically the vessels of all of Verne's stories. So having books down the center of a table with a bunch of candles, it's very aesthetic. It's very cool. It looks fun, and there's a lot of talking points involved in it, especially if you have some interesting books on the table that people could talk about. But it should be a very imaginative looking and kind of rustic centerpiece, because I think that's what a Jules Verne dinner should feel like. And I think one thing that we need to definitely do is we need to send invites out. And if we're going to invite 10 to 20 people, I think the thing that you should do here is send place cards or invitations shaped like boarding passes or passports, inspired by like the obsessive record keeping that Phileas Fogg did in Around the World in 80 Days. In the book, he keeps like all his boarding documents and train tickets, and he keeps watching his pocket watch tick. He's very obsessive with making sure that people know that he actually did make it around the world in 80 days, which he actually does. But I think with this type of invite to a party, we're inviting our guests to become passengers into a journey. And these passes could be like seating assignments. They could have what your guest needs to wear on them. Basically, you're sending out an invitation to a story, which I love that idea, and I think that it would be really cool. Menus, I don't know if I think menu needs to be like one big one that's well designed, like on a nice board, or like really whenever we create things, we always do these vision boards. I think having a vision board menu that's like very unique would be fun on this one instead of just doing individual menus. I think that the vision board idea that's like on the wall, kind of blending in with the design, would be a lot of fun. So now, we always like to talk about music too. Music and atmosphere are important at parties. And I think that the most important type of music we should have is like reimagine 19th century tunes. And you can find these on Spotify or wherever you choose to listen to music, any of your downloading service, Apple Music, wherever. You can find these like Baroque compositions of like steampunk twists, like strings playing like ragtime music that are blended with like industrial soundscapes and like layered into modern pop music. So Postmodern Jukebox would be one of them that's really, really good. But I think it's a node to Verne's lifelong fascination with merging this old and new technology. And this music is really, really cool. Or like electro swing would be a good one to play here. But I believe if Jules Verne was around today, he would probably be listening to this type of music, like steampunk twist or ragtime or electro swing. But I've seen some restaurants do it recently, and that is to play soundscapes while they're serving food instead of music. So if we're serving the ocean course, having like sonar pings with wave sounds while we're serving 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea would be fun. Like just randomly it comes on and it dives into like sonar pings from a submarine or waves from the ocean. And people are starting to do that more and more now. They're starting to have a lot of soundscapes or sound built into their menus, which I find to be very, very fascinating and very inventive and fun and unique. Yeah. And then having like for Around the World in 80 Days, having like some steam engine sounds or train whistles or like the bustle of like the Moroccan spice markets or Egypt, in some of the places he went in India. So, and the Journey to the Center of the Earth, having like volcano rumblings or like rumblings a little bit. And I think one thing that we should tell our guests is no talking when we're eating. We should just listen to the sounds if we're going to do that. So it's very artsy. It blends like food with sound. It adds to the senses. Because we can, we can still touch and hear and see food, but having sound integrated into the dish, I think, is a really, really cool idea. Some places are even doing scents now, too. So it's like they project a scent as you're eating to help with some of the flavor profiles. But let's talk like entertainment and interaction, because this is where it gets fun. Like, I want my guests at this dinner party to explore. They're not just coming to eat. So I think passport stamping. So we send out the passport ticket as the invitation, and they bring it with them, and then they get a stamp for every course served, which you would stamp a destination on a passport. And during Around the World in 80 Days, Jules Verne has his character get stamps everywhere he went. So like you can order these cool stamps off of Amazon or online somewhere, or at your local like hobby shop. They can have them too. But get like a City of London stamp or a City of Bombay stamp. They have like cool Arctic Circle stamps. I looked through all of them and I was like, oh, this is cool. There's a lot of really cool stamps out there that I think would be a lot of fun. But you get a stamp when you eat the dish. And then I think one thing that we haven't done on any of the parties that we've talked about this show is have someone dressed up as a narrator or storyteller. And I have this idea where I want a narrator to be the person serving the food. Kind of like a server would in a restaurant or a chef would describe the dish. But having a narrator, maybe like you could reach out to your local college or theater company and have someone, pay them of course, they're talented, to read like scripts based on your courses that are like, they're in costume, they're a storyteller, they're narrating the dinner for you, which can be a lot of fun, especially if there was a couple of them and there was some acting involved. I think that's really cool entertainment. And I think that a dinner party needs to tell a story. That's why we do dinner. But I think in this sense, we could tell several stories all at the same time. Imagine like an interactive adventure dinner party. And I think that would be really a ton of fun and really, really cool to do. And I like to do photo booths, but photo booths in this one would be not really what I'm looking for. What I want to do at the table is have conversation prompts posted. So if you do have someone there narrating, they could ask your guests questions based on props on the table. Like, if you had to circumnavigate the globe in 80 days, what would your route be? I know what my route would be. It would be Panama City, Florida to Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia to New York City, New York City to London, London to Paris, Paris to Rome, Rome to somewhere completely off the rails like, no, let's go to Brisbane, Australia, Brisbane to Tokyo, Tokyo to probably San Francisco or Seattle, and then whatever, Seattle, San Francisco, back to Atlanta. But I would circulate the globe in 80 days. It would be cool to do his actual route, but I looked and seen if that was actually possible. It is possible, but it would be very, very difficult because some of the Middle Eastern stops. Yeah. Or questions like, would you rather explore the ocean floor or the moon? Because, I mean, both two very unique places. One of them we can see better than the other. We can't see the ocean floor very well. We see the moon almost every night when there's no clouds in the sky. But things like, what invention would you bring to a deserted island? All of these spark fun, interesting conversations that engage your guests. People get to talking, and it makes the party a whole lot more fun, especially with one like this. Hopefully, your guests have read some of his books, some of his works, and then it makes it a little easier to talk about, because these are literary classics, and we're talking about someone who literally helped invent things like SpaceX 150 years before it was even thought to be possible to go to outer space. So, and it's pretty cool. So, and really, I mean, Jules Verne wasn't just writing about fantasy there. I mean, he wrote the possible future. And I think blending that with food and doing notes to him based on like his wildest ideas in real places, based on real silence and real machines, I think that we should do the same at our dinner party, but rooted in like flavors and textures and sounds and smells of actual places, trying to really capture the moment and talk about like, hey, this is what we're doing for this type of party. Stay tuned. We'll talk. The wrap-up on WKGC 90.7. This is Doing Dinner with Chef Chris.
Support for WKGC Public Media comes from the St. Joe Community Foundation. Established in 1999, the foundation supports nonprofit organizations in Northwest Florida, particularly in Bay and Walton counties, through grants that enhance education, environmental stewardship, community health, and the cultural arts. Learn more at joe.com/foundation.
WKGC News is proud to simulcast our Bay County Commission meetings. Listen to your local government in action.
I agree 100%, and couldn't have said it any better.
On the first and third Tuesday of each month, WKGC brings you live coverage of the Bay County Commission meeting.
There's a compromise in there somewhere, and we'll figure it out.
Here when you need us, WKGC 90.7 FM and HD.
So with that, meeting adjourned.
All right, our fellow explorers, we've set our courses. This is Doing Dinner on 90.7 WKGC. I'm your host, Chef Chris, and today we have planned a Jules Verne-based dinner party with lots of fun things, amazing food, awesome decor, and plenty of things for our guests to talk about. And the reason I chose Jules Verne today was because I believe in the resurgence of dinner parties. There's been lots of articles wrote in the past couple months about people doing dinner parties, which I do dinner parties myself. I have one coming up at Revival House in downtown Panama City this Saturday evening, and it's called Gulf and Garden. It's based off. It's a cool party. It's based off our local foods, where I buy everything from the Panama City and St. Andrews Farmers Market the day of, plan the menu the day of, cook it the day of, and serve it the day of. And the boundaries I've given myself for this one are strictly, it has to come from the market. So if they don't sell olive oil, then I don't serve it. So it should be quite fun, and it's going to be an amazing, awesome little adventure. But yeah, so for our Verne-based dinner party, we have that course one, that tea-smoked duck tartlet. And then we have Arctic char crudo. And if you don't know what Arctic char is, it's a really cool fish. Kind of looks like salmon a little bit. Crudo is a cold, raw-based fish dish. Arctic char swim deep in Arctic Ocean, so they're very clean and fresh and delicious with some pickled shallot, lemon, ice, and dill oil. And then a bouillabaisse, which is a classic French preparation, my favorite way to cook, by the way, based on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And that Moroccan spiced lamb we talked about earlier, with the most interesting dish of the night, and the one that should get everyone talking, absinthe creme brulee with pistachio crumb from the earth to the moon, because I just feel like the moon should taste like absinthe. I think that the moon should taste like fennel, absinthe, things of that nature. But it's clear that Verne had lots of life and legendary stories to tell, and I think that's one of the coolest things that he was able to do with his time, was write these stories. And I love to tell stories through food. That's what I do. And I think that we did that pretty well today with a 5-course menu inspired by multiple of his novels, and then the decor inspired by his novels as well. So, we designed a theme party atmosphere with games and music and decor. I think having postmodern jukebox playing or electro swing playing is probably going to be the best bet. The steampunk vibe is kind of cool, and I think people really, really love that. So I think being able to do that and have these dinner parties, especially basing them off of books, is a really, really good way to get into dinner party planning. Instead of just sitting there trying to think of ideas, like think of your favorite book and think about, how could I turn this into a party? Or think about your favorite movie or television show, and how could I turn this into a party? Like the one we did a few weeks ago based on We Were Liars with the Lemon Hunt, which turned out to be very, very fun, and it was awesome. The one I have coming up, let's see, we have a back-to-school base party coming up, which is going to be a lot of fun. And we do actually have a seafood, this Asian seafood themed party. Oh, I got a call yesterday about a Clue party, like the game Clue. Yeah, and it's for a 50th birthday party, and they want me to integrate the food into some of the clues, which will be a lot of fun.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, and I think they're inviting 30 people, so I don't know. That one's going to be fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I also got another call for someone who wants to do a Halloween party, which I've done tons of Halloween parties, but they call me because they want something unique. So this person who called me happens to be in the beauty business, like Botox and lip filler and
medical Halloween party. That's what this sounds like.
So it's like, well, why don't we do it in reverse? People come to get monster-fied,
Monster-fied.
Yeah. I have a cool, I want to call it Skin Deep, and just do this really cool theme around
crystal skulls.
Yeah, crystal skulls, and all of this help put drinks in the IV bags. People could drink out of IV bags.
That'd work.
Yeah, and that one's going to be fun. And I mean, how cool is that people are now calling me and saying, hey, what can you do for me for this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I got some ideas. And then I just start working with them, and it's a lot of fun. The Clue one will be fun because I get to be interactive in that one. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be the person who did the murder, but I do think that me and some of my staff will be very interactive with the guests at that party, which always makes it fun. I did a Halloween party one time for a doctor, and it was a children's Halloween party. All of my staff had to dress up. It was alien themed. It was space themed alien.
Cool.
Yeah, and we had all of my staff was in alien outfits, the lime green skin tight alien outfits, walking around serving food. It was awesome. We had a UFO built into the front yard with a live person inside of it in an alien outfit, moving around. It was a really, really great, cool time, and it's they can get very elaborate and a lot of fun, especially with the food. I think we had the food on that one. We had these little pots with this edible dirt in them with worms coming out and all kinds of crazy things. But people love it, and the more interactive it can be, the better it usually is. And I think that's why if you want to do dinner parties, the best way to do it, the best way to start, is to find something that is your favorite and then base it around that. But today we remember that food isn't just substance, right? It's storytelling. And in the spirit of Jules Verne, we decide to dine beneath the sea. There are people that have restaurants underneath the water now and hotels underneath the water now. We eat in the sky. I don't know if people know or have seen, but there's those restaurants hanging off the side of buildings, or those restaurants in the sky that are circling, or in caves, in castles. There's dinner parties in deserts now. We haven't had one on the moon yet, but I'm sure eventually someone will do one.
Somebody's going to do one.
Someone's going to do one. Probably Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably him, But whether you're cooking at home or throwing your own whimsical feast out in the public, let me remind you, the best dinners take you somewhere. They transfer your table into a vessel for wonder. I'm Chef Chris, and this has been Doing Dinner on WKGC 90.7. Until next time, keep exploring, keep cooking, and always set your table like it's the start of an adventure.
Ready?
Bon voyage.
Go.
The aliens landed in old Key West, right around the time of Fantasy Fest. In the old graveyard, the ship came down. 3 little green men headed out into town. They'd come to see if the stories were true, that we were taken from the oven just a little too soon. Well, it happens there was a parade that night, and those little green men had never seen such a sight. Boys with boys and girls with girls, and sights unseen on any other world. You'd think it'd be strange to see the little green men, but during Fantasy Fest, well, we fit right in. Nobody noticed the night when the aliens came, because in Key West only normal is strange. The inmates are running the asylum again. Nobody noticed the night when the aliens came. Well, it didn't take long till they filled right at home. Nobody noticed they were short, green and alone. Then at the corner of Duval and Caroline Street, somebody passed them a joint of medical weed. Now, alien physiology and THC would be like you and I doing acid and speed. They started chugging Guinness out at Irish Kevin's. Soon they forgot just where they were heading, so they each drank 17 Jaeger bombs, and they all got tattoos that said, I love Mom. They studied anatomy at the Red Garter Saloon, then found a karaoke bar, sang Jimmy Buffett tunes. Nobody noticed the night when the aliens came, because in Key West only normal is strange. The inmates are running the asylum again. Nobody noticed the night when the aliens came. Just before dawn they made it back to their craft, with 3 pounds of weed and a bag full of swag. And as they flew off into the night, somebody heard them exclaim, Desdemona was right! Just beyond Pluto, they left a big sign saying, stay away from Earth, who folks are out of their minds. Nobody noticed the night when the aliens came, because in Key West only normal is strange. The inmates are running the asylum again.
9.7 FM, WKGC, Panama City.